think she's stuck as we speak on the bridge over the causeway. That should be a half hour, 40 minutes in there.
Through Mr. Mayor, it's 5:30 p.m. and the live stream has commenced. You may begin your meeting.
Okay, thank you, Madam Clerk. Good afternoon, Council, SLT, and members of the public that are joining us for this, I consider a very important meeting. Thank you all for coming out this afternoon. So we have quorum, so I will call this special meeting on March the 11th at 5:30 p.m. into session. And as usual, we will have the land recognition statement read, and today is Councillor Kerr.
Thank you. The town of Pelham is situated on treaty land, steeped in the rich history of the First Nations, such as the Haudenosaunee and the Haudenosaunee and the Anishinaabe, including the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation. This territory is covered by the Upper Canada Treaties and is protected by the Dish with One Spoon Wampum Agreement. Today, many First Nations, Métis and Inuit people from across Turtle Island live and work in Niagara. The town of Pelham stands in solidarity with all Indigenous peoples, past and present, acknowledging that our high standard of living is a result of the resources and lasting friendship of Indigenous peoples.
Thank you, Councillor Kerr. I turn to the clerk.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. That brings us to the adoption of the agenda, and I have a motion put forth by Councillor Hildebrand, seconded by Deputy Mayor Eckert. Be it resolved that the agenda for the March 11th, 2026 special meeting of Council be adopted as circulated. To you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. After viewing the agenda, does any member of council have any additions or questions? I will call the vote. All those in favor? I see none opposed. Motion carries. And at this time, after the approval of the agenda, does any council member have a disclosure of pecuniary interest to declare? Not seeing any, Madam Clerk?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. That brings us to opening remarks, and if I may, I'd like to briefly outline some procedural approach this evening. While this is a special meeting of council, it is the intention to conduct the meeting in a manner similar to that of a public meeting with an open mic format to allow public participation. To facilitate this approach, I have a motion before council moved by Councillor Kerr, seconded by Councillor Bernarski. Be it resolved that council suspend the rules of section 28.3 to permit an unlimited number of public speakers for the purpose of facilitating an open mic discussion. To you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Any questions? I'll call the vote. All those in favor? Motion carries.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As such, residents who wish to address council this evening will be provided 5 minutes each to share their comments. When coming forward to the podium, please ensure that the microphone is turned on. The indicator light will turn green when it is active. We also ask that you begin by stating your name for the record. Following public presentations, Town of Pelham Council will also have an opportunity to provide comments on the matter. No decisions will be made this evening, as the authority on this matter rests outside of the Town of Pelham. Instead, all comments received tonight, along with those submitted to the town through other communication channels, will be compiled and forwarded to the province. Verbal submissions made this evening will be summarized and included as part of that submission. Please note that this meeting is being live streamed and recorded and will remain available on YouTube for future viewing. There is an overflow viewing area set up around the corner in the community room should anyone wish to leave following their comments. And we recognize that this topic is one that people feel very strongly about. And as there may be a range of perspectives this evening, we ask that all comments be directed through the chair, remain respectful, and avoid the use of offensive language. Should decorum be lost at any time, the mayor reserves the right to recess the meeting until the order is restored. And Mr. Mayor, that brings us to item 7, and the CAO will be making an introductory presentation this evening.
Okay, thank you, Madam Clerk. Mr. CAO, Mr. Cribbs, you have the floor.
Good evening. By some magic. Oh, it's going to pop up there. Just like to start by apologizing to the public. I'm sorry, I'm going to speak with my back to you, and I deserve better than that. It's just the sort of physical design of the room, but no disrespect meant at all. So here we are, or why are we here, really? And how did this topic of governance review come about? Let's get at that in 5 slides. Right, so this is what I plan to say. Really, in fact, can we just go on to the timeline? Would be so kind. So on February 15th, the regional chair publicly sent a letter to mayors across Niagara indicating or proposing the notion of amalgamations. That letter broached the notion that the future of Niagara would be as either a single municipality or a conglomerate of 4 municipalities. It did not provide specificity as to who would be married to whom. It left that sort of general and vague. That resulted in a number of actions, one of which was a request for feedback from residents across Niagara. Both the chair and the town on February 26th were asking for resident feedback. At February 26th, there was a regional council meeting at which 8 municipalities, one of which is the town of Pelham, moved forward with the concept that amalgamation was an unacceptable outcome, and that there could be a more productive conversation, and that conversation ought to target regional operations, since that was the focus of most of the regional chair's complaints. That ultimately resulted in a letter that specifically, firstly, it resulted in a unified response from those 8 municipalities with some specific proposals. And those are the collective wisdom of 8 of 12. And thereafter, or the next day, each of those municipalities put out their individual perspective, which has some variation, of course, as we're all different communities across the peninsula. At that time, also, we were trying to call for this event to make sure that people actually get a chance to have themselves heard. At this point in time, we've had more than 20,000 human beings in a town of just under 20,000. Look at the video we put out, hundreds of online comments, and so the response has been really significant. Now, across a political spectrum, of course, comments of all sorts of nature, but that brings us here today, the purpose of which is to give you an opportunity for actual voice. Is there another slide? So look, governance reviews over the arc of, in fact, the town of Pelham did a governance review just over a year ago, and there's some people in this room who came out and gave us your thoughts on what Pelham might look like for the next election. And after we had some governance experts come in and talk to Pelham about what that would look like. And then, of course, we consulted people, and at the end of the day, it was decided that a council of 7 was the right number for a community of our size, and that, frankly, we just needed to adjust one boundary between 2 different wards. It's gone a couple hundred meters, but fundamentally, that was just to allow for some population growth and rebalance. But that fundamentally, we kind of had the ideal. We kicked tires at a lot of different models and landed on this thing's kind of working. That's the Coles Notes version. For those of you, you go back and it's there up in January last year, but that's the long story short, I think. At any rate, governance review is a reasonably common tool. I would say more so where you have in upper and lower, where you have 2-tier municipalities, because you always want to kind of make sure you're responding, you're providing service at the right level of the 2, whatever that happens to be, who does what, and then also that you have the right ward or council configuration for the population needs. So it's something you should do periodically anyway. And at least as far as our municipal structure, this council did it last calendar year, and it took about the better part of a year getting up to that point. It was 9-10 months of work leading to that report. The governance review that's been called for by 8 municipalities, one of which is the town of Pelham, would look at levels of service and duplication. For those of you who've read the letter, you may know that we've called out specifically water and roads as fairly clear areas where there's ought to be an opportunity for change or evolution without prejudging an outcome, but that those seem to a lot of people who work within the system, who either lead it or work within it, there are at least some self-evident arguments for starting there. And as part of a governance review, it is fairly common. In fact, we did it last year away from an election without this threat of amalgamation. We kicked the tires on ourselves, and it's pretty normal to look at, is your council size the right or correct size? And clearly on the provincial government has some thoughts about that. So it's reasonable to take a look at that too. So that is what one might reasonably expect in a governance review, which is something that's been called for. This is not a concept originating in town hall. I'm not here to endorse it, but just so that you can see, notionally, a one city model would mean we'd probably all become labeled the regional municipality of Niagara, from coast to coast to coast, however you want to say that, but with one town hall, one municipal administration building in charge of everything. So that's the concept of one city. There are plenty of places in Ontario that are single tier, is the legal language they use in the Municipal Act. That exists. Four city would be four. What isn't as self-evident in this call for four cities is that also calls for the end of the region of Niagara, municipality of Niagara. Four is not five, four is four. They don't mean three in a region. This is calling for four, no region. So this presupposes the end of the regional municipality of Niagara. And that's the call of 4 of the 12 municipalities. And this, what we hope, or what we're referring to as a unified voice, which I think is substantively true, calls for the governance review, the financial review, which includes things like looking at elected officials, as we were saying earlier, and starting with water and wastewater. There is new provincial legislation called the Municipal Water and Wastewater Corporations Act 2025 that was passed by the province in November. There is no, as yet, no one in Ontario has availed themselves of that opportunity, but it does exist now. There's a law, Ontario views this as a good way forward. They made it law in November. No one's actually done it yet, but it exists, and it's a vehicle that could be used. And if you choose to read the legislation, I think you will find that it refers to local municipal control throughout the legislation, and it doesn't actually call for private sector ownership. It has to be a municipal corporation, which we have and exists in other forms, hydro companies, airports, that sort of thing. So those already exist, but there's now legislation allowing for that in water specifically. And you see the signatories to that down below. So those are the joint responses, which takes us here. So, this is kind of uncharted territory for us too. We thought the way this might make sense is to sort of kind of give you the Coles Notes version of the quick history, because it's been a lot really quickly. Somewhat confusing, but here we are. I'll take my seat now. I suspect His Worship will want to make some opening remarks, and then the notion is that everyone who wishes to should be able to have their say, and then council needs to have its say. Frankly, we've got this far, and we haven't had a lawful meeting where elected officials could give their own 2 cents. So that's pretty important. The people have been elected to lead this corporation in this community. With that, I will prove I can stop talking. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. CAO. I appreciate those words. And as he alluded to, I will speak for a couple of minutes. There is the last 3 months has been crazy. Mr. CAO started chain of events around February 15th. It was actually the second week of January where a rumor came out of Queen's Park that the provincial government was going to be taking a very hard look at amalgamation starting when the House began, provincial House opened, started again March 23rd. And it was a rumor that was very well substantiated, backed up. It sounded a lot different than the last 3 or 4 years when Doug Ford would once in a while say, oh, Niagara has way too many elected officials, 126, I believe it is. That's way too many for our population, blah, 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 blah. But this was coming out of Toronto, seemed very, it had a different tone to it. Then February 15th, when Bob Gale sent out his letter to the mayors, and it was partly, he did a good job of, excuse my language, of screwing everything up. Okay, it came out, it was very unprofessional, and I got to tell you right now, Bob Gale is a friend of mine. I was talking to him this afternoon. I'll get into that later on. So Bob and I, he actually befriended me when I first got on regional council. I have nothing but good things to say. I know there's other people that question things about him, but Bob and I have a good working relationship, which I'm very fortunate, which I think the town is fortunate to have now that he has been appointed chair. Should he have been appointed chair, it would have been nice if Niagara was considered grown up enough to elect our own chairman. There's no doubt about that. But the province started that way back with our last chair, Jim Bradley, who was, and that was a very good choice. Jim was the guy we needed to pull this region back together. Obviously, Jim had a very unfortunate untimely passing, and then the mayor of the province elected Bob in there. So whatever, Bob's our chairman, and you deal with the cards you dealt, and so be it. Anyway, moving on. So yeah, the mayors got together. I mean, Lincoln mayor, she let it be known that she was 4 cities. So we had, and then the big cities, they came out of the box saying, yes, they were for 4 cities. So that left us with 8 municipalities that were definitely against amalgamation, and we were going to fight it as much as we can, because I hope everyone realizes that we exist at the good fortune of the province. The province, if Dougie gets up tomorrow morning and says, this is what I want, this is what's going to happen, that's what happens. And we have no say about it. And when you think about it, he only has 1 seat in the whole Niagara region, so it would only at the most cost him 1 seat. And to tell you the honest truth, let's face it, Sam is very strongly situated in the region. So Doug could do whatever he wanted here, and he probably will not have to pay a political price. So we had to walk carefully, and we had to make sure that we didn't just scream and jump. We had to make sure we came back with something. The CNO were talking, and we said, if you're going to go there and wish him a happy birthday, you have to take him a present. So, okay, it's one thing to say we're against amalgamation. What are we going to do? So then 8 mayors got together. They wrote a letter, and ended up being what everyone did. Pelham put out a letter. We discussed it in council. We put out our letter, and every other municipality got together and wrote out their letters. And in those letters, we said, listen, let me backtrack again. When the first Bob Gale put his letter out, it almost seemed like they wanted everything done before the next election. And that was one of the things that was just, are you kidding us? How are we ever going to join these 12 municipalities into 4 cities and determine debt load, determine assets, and everything else that goes before the next election? And yet that's what they were proposing, I'm pretty sure. So that was another thing. We the letters were sent to give some constructive criticism back and to get us time so we could look at this thing reasonable and do studies, because that's the only way this is going to get done correctly. And of course, the incentive, go ahead, Councilor Nesnick. So, of course, the incentive is that we have seen amalgamation in other parts of the province, and third parties have looked at the amalgamations after they were 10 or 12 years old and said there was no savings. So this idea that, if we do this, you're going to be able to save this, and you'll be saving $30 million over the next 10 years, it wasn't going to happen with 4 cities. It's been proven that it just doesn't work. So that was our objective when we first started off with the 8 mayors. We wanted to get us time, and even we were even going to say, even if it's just a year, we can't do this. And we said, well, we don't want amalgamation to begin with, but if you are going to press it on us, it can't be in 6 months. And then thanks to the residents of all of the region, Pelham, they name off all the municipalities. Obviously, anybody who looked at social media, you could soon realize that the people, the percent against amalgamation, but I believe on our page it's about 8 or 85%. Everybody more or less said, leave our communities alone. Each one has its own distinct personality. If you must fiddle, if you must find savings, please look at the region. And after being a mayor and a regional representative, I'm pretty sure that we could find a lot of savings by doing a lot of things at the region a different way, whether it be water, turning it into a public utilities commission. There was talk on Facebook about it sounded like the 8 mayors wanted privatization. That's the last thing we want. We're not even thinking about that. So I just want to put that out there in case someone is going to comment on that. Anyway, talking to Bob Gale today, let me go back again. February 15th, if somebody had told me that 4 cities was going to happen, I would have put the percentage, I would have believed them. It was that strong a feeling. We were getting that big a vibe from the other side of the lake, and I thought it was actually going to happen. Didn't want it, but looked like that's how the province was going to play their cards. Now, I can honestly say, because of the reaction from the citizens, because of the reaction from all the councillors, I would say that my own personal feeling is that we're over the hump. We can't let up. We have to continue kicking the can down the road. And if anything, I'll thank Bob Gale for opening up the conversations on governance. And let's have meaningful conversations going forward at the municipal level, but also getting whatever the number is going to be at the region. Let's come together, and I hate to say it, but hire some consultants, and let's take a look at each individual department at the region. And I don't care where we start, whether we start at water, whether we start at roads department. Can we do a better job by downloading it back to the municipalities? Everybody has has snow plows and what have you. Surely it wouldn't be that big a deal to divide that out. We all have regional trucks go down Highway 20. That can be Pelham trucks. Obviously, it's a lot more complicated than that, but that's what we need the time for. I can see this take probably 5, 6, 10 years. I don't know how long it's going to take. It's a 1.5 billion corporation we're talking about at the region. That's what their budget is every year. So you're not going to take that apart in a year. It's going to, and like I said, you don't want to. You got to have. If we're going to go ahead, we need a business plan for whatever department we're going to look at, and that's the sense of the mayors going forward. So I'll leave it at that. I appreciate all of you that looked at the video. And like I say, it was awesome that we had 21,000 hits on that. So that was awesome. We didn't think we were going to get that. And so you listen to that. You know how I feel. You know how this council feels. And I think we got 200 plus comments. And that will be sent over to Mr. Flack, and any comments that are made here today, any written comments, Madam Clerk?
Yes.
We will continue to gather comments until Friday, and then we will bundle them up, and we'll say, Mr. Flack, these are the comments from the residents of Pelham. Every other municipality will be doing that, and yes, so that's and so when you come up to the mic, if you have any further questions you want to ask me, ask away. And but this is mostly give us your ideas, your thoughts about amalgamation. Maybe I imagine maybe there's somebody here that thinks we should do it. Whatever your feelings are. Come on up to the mic and let us know. That's why we called this meeting. Like I say, we appreciated what we've heard on social media, and we also want to hear from you live and in color. So, Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. That brings us to the public portion of the meeting, and I'd like to remind the gallery that each speaker is allotted one opportunity of 5 minutes to address council. And Mr. Mayor, we have had some individuals pre-registered to speak, so we will begin with them before opening to the gallery. Our first speaker today is Herb Sawatsky.
Herb, thank you for joining us today. You've been here before.
Yeah, once or twice. Is there a clock I'm looking for? Or I just
Listen to her ding. Oh, and you got to get your mic on, sir. Yep.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Mayor and councilors, for opening up this meeting and giving us the opportunity to speak to the question of municipal government reform here in Niagara. I have too much to say, so I'll just leave my gratitude right there. Just getting quickly to it, it feels like a distraction to talk about reducing the number of Niagara's councillors. I don't see how fewer councillors will ever be more cost-effective or more efficient, simply because the total amount of work that has to be done will not change. Fewer councillors will have to do the same work overall, working the same number of hours. As an example, you, as a regional councillor, as Councillor Mayor Junkin, will now have to do Wayne Olson's job too. Wayne Olson and I have coffee every few months. I don't know if you want to take that on. Or if you want to deal with the rest of the rabble that he talks to over at the grill on Canberra. On a more serious note, the cost of government in Hamilton with 16 councillors is higher than in all of Niagara with 126. And there's no reason to think that smaller councils are more efficient. If Hamilton or Toronto were more efficient with their smaller councils, they would have let us know by now. I'm even more concerned with the idea of reducing the region to 12 councillors and giving the mayors weighted votes. As you know, from the region, St. Catharines currently has 7 councillors on the region, and those 7 councillors cannot agree on anything and they never vote together. I think that's a good thing. I think it is not a good thing to give the mayor of St. Catharines 8 unified votes when their representatives never agree. Giving St. Catharines, Niagara Falls, and Welland weighted votes gives them the control of the region. I don't see how that is good for Pelham or any other small municipality. The proposals made so far also do not deal with the vast majority of the region's costs. 2/3 of Niagara's budget goes to policing, which is in no way affected by any of these government reforms that we're suggesting. And that's a huge, 2/3 of our budget, that's a huge piece of it. On wastewater, I'm very glad to hear your assurances that it will not be privatized. There is unfortunately room within the Act for that to happen, as I understand it. I hope I'm wrong about that. I hope we stick to our guns on that. I want to make 3 suggestions on what will increase efficiency in our municipal government. We need to stick to policy. We need to make policies and stick to them after we've made them. Councils waste a lot of money when they direct staff to conduct studies, write official plans, write strategic plans, secondary development plans, and then at the point of implementation, change direction. This wastes thousands of hours of staff and council's time and hundreds of thousands of dollars, if not millions of dollars. And we've seen it happen many times over. There's nothing in the current proposal that will discourage smaller councils from behaving this way. Chair Gale doesn't even want to do any more studies or write any more policies. He's frustrated with the same thing that we are, but his solution will make things worse. Councils and staff need to seek out broad public input and then lock policies into place when they are made. This will be efficient, this will be cost effective. Because of time constraints, I'll end that there. I've got suggestions on how that can happen and examples of how that can happen. We also need to stop confusing lower taxes with fiscal responsibility. Maintenance is cheaper than repair. Repair is cheaper than replacement. We are in the bind we are in with our physical infrastructure because previous councils have underfunded maintenance and upkeep. We now have to pay more than we should have because taxes were kept artificially low for 10, 20, and 30 years. There is nothing to stop a smaller council from making these same mistakes. Finally, we need a new deal for municipalities, and this has been said many times over. Clearly, we cannot cover the costs of policing, public health, homelessness, and all of our critical infrastructure through property taxes alone. The province wants to increase economic development in Niagara, and I support that, but the tax benefit of that development will go to the province and the federal government, not Niagara. It will even increase our policing costs, so it will make our property taxes go up, not down. Ontario municipalities need a new fiscal arrangement whereby they receive some of the income tax and HST raised in their jurisdictions. Thank you for your time. All the best.
Thank you for the presentation. Before we get to the next speaker, I do want to clarify something. The letter that Bob Gale sent out with the weighted votes, we were fortunate enough to have our CAO in his previous employment, and perhaps even before that, worked in a municipality with weighted votes, and like everyone else, he said, Marv, there is no way that those weighted votes, as structured in Bob Gale's letter, would ever work. Because with the way they had it, Herb, you're absolutely right, if St. Catharines and Niagara Falls, and I don't even think they needed Welland, the way the vote structure was presented, those two cities would control the region. They wouldn't need to come and make a deal with Pelham or Fort Erie to get something through. They would have enough votes to overrule everybody else. So we realized that, and I realized that when the letter came out. But I also realized that all those letters, and Bob's letter was the same, that they're just starting points in discussion and in going forward. That's all they are. They're starting points. So I had Mr. CAO drew a mini report for me, and he listed all the ways that weighted votes can be changed so that no two cities, no two municipalities have more power than the rest of them together. So that I took that report that the CAO was kind enough to write for me. I took it down to Bob Gale today, and he was ecstatic to get it. He said, Marv, this is I understand where you're coming from, and this is exactly what I want, is okay, if you don't like my idea, give me, instead of just standing back and saying, well, that'll never work, give me something constructive. Thanks to Mr. CAO Cribbs, we had something constructive, and he said this will be going to Minister Flack as soon as I can get it off the copying machine, and we will have a discussion about this about how the weighted vote should operate. Because there is no way, and everyone here realizes that, I'm sure there are some of you that picked it up, there is no way that St. Catharines and Niagara Falls can have enough votes that they can do whatever they want without having rural help to get there. So They realize that, and like I said, it's just it's a starting point, and he was so happy to get this report that Mr. Cribbs did, and going forward, that will be, I'm sure that'll be up for discussion, whether it's the regional, all 32, or whether it's from the mayors, whoever, but that has been seen as a non-workable item, and that will be fixed. I can guarantee you that. So I just wanted to bring everyone up to speed on that. The weighted votes as presented in Bob Gale's, there is no way that would ever work, because you're not going to have two municipalities or two cities dictate to the other part of the region, and he realized that. So I just wanted to put that out there. Madam Clerk, next speaker.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Frank Adamson.
Frank, you've been here yourself many times. Welcome tonight.
Thanks so much. You just took the wind out of my sails, by the way, but that's okay.
Sorry.
So, Mr. Mayor, councilors, and staff, thank you for providing this opportunity to share my views on regional governance reform. Obviously, the region is at a critical juncture. Mr. Gale has put us at that juncture. As local public stakeholders, we recognize the importance of the ongoing governance review. Decisions made now will shape the quality, efficiency, and accountability of our municipal services for years to come. Therefore, it's essential this process be guided by a commitment to effective local representation, fiscal responsibility, and meaningful public input. The urgency to act within the current council term cannot be overstated, but it is unfortunately being rushed. The majority of the mayors has indicated 8 of them strongly oppose the adoption of the either one city or 4-city model for Niagara. Consolidating municipalities into a single or a few large cities threatens the unique identities of our communities, risks diminishing local representation, and may lead to a loss of responsiveness to residents' needs. Our region's diversity should be preserved, not diluted by amalgamation. Premier Harris's forced amalgamation of Hamilton, Ottawa, Sudbury, and Ottawa may have benefited the larger urban centers, but at the expense of the combined smaller municipalities that got swallowed up, while, as indicated, increasing costs. Instead of municipal amalgamation, they advocate for the consolidation of shared services under the region. We've already talked about some of these key areas for integration, water, wastewater management. I can never figure out why we, get this thing is controlled by the region, and yet we get a bill from this town for water and wastewater. Obviously, planning, roads, purchasing, and others. Coordinating these services regionally will yield cost savings, streamline operations, and improve service quality. By focusing on shared services, we can achieve greater efficiency and consistency across Niagara while maintaining the strength and identities of our local municipalities. So I guess I could thank Chair Gale for reigniting the discussion. Mr. Gale has deemed the number of politicians in Niagara at 126 to be bloated. The regional municipality of Niagara has 31 councillors and an appointed chair. Again, each of the municipalities has a mayor and up to 12 councillors. Mr. Gale is recommending replacing all 22 regional councillors and appointing the 12 mayors who would have a weighted vote determined by population. As you've already indicated, 1 vote per 15,000 population. Given the population of our 2 largest municipalities, Niagara Falls and St. Catharines, would have 15 of 28 votes. Essentially, 2 mayors would control all major decisions for the entire region, including budget, divestment of services, duplication of services, etc. Their interests are far removed from those of the mixed rural, small urban municipalities. I believe that it is imperative that any decisions based on the vote of 2 mayors must be endorsed by a majority of the 12 municipalities before passage. So I'm not sure what Mr. Cribbs has given you, but basically saying that if these 2 voted one way, that at least 6 mayors sitting there would have to agree with that.
Yeah, that's right.
That could work. However, I'm of the view that we don't put mayors on regional government. We take them off. I think they should be represented by the current mix of councillors, minus the 12 mayors. As in Waterloo Region and 2 other regions, councillors serve a dual role, having a seat on both the lower tier and upper tier municipality. St. Catharines would have 6 dual seats of their 12. Niagara Falls would have 3, and Welland would have 2. All others would have 1 dual seat representative. This brings all actions of the Regional Council back to the 12 lower tier municipalities for discussion, debate, and direction. It also precludes, again, 2 to 3 mayors having total control. I believe it's a travesty that the Premier of Ontario can dictate that our regional chair be appointed by him. For years, our chair was elected by regional councillors from amongst themselves. And finally, after a lot of discussion over many years, 8 years ago, Council finally voted to have this position open to election by the citizens, which was abruptly rejected by the Premier during that process. This is not reflective of a democratic society, and this person ultimately is only accountable to the Premier. And he has shown that with, having been told at that special meeting of Council to cease, desist, stop, he kept going. And what are you going to do, fire him?
Yeah.
You can't.
No.
In regard to Mr. Gill's recommendations for the downsizing of lower tier municipalities, there seems to be support. The biggest change would be for Welland, which would lose 6 of 12 councillors, 1 for each ward. St. Catharines would remain at 12, and most others will go to 6. Given the Welland proposal, which means 1 councillor is going to be serving 9,000 citizens, and you're not going to like this, but I'm throwing it out here. I believe that Pelham could and should decrease to 1 councillor per ward, plus 1 dual role councillor. In the last election, only 2 of 6 of you were actually elected, given the dismal lack of commitment by our citizens, and voter turnout was certainly affected. Had it not been for the mayor's and regional councillors' race, the dismal turnout would have been even more deplorable. I don't believe that any seat should be uncontested. On shared services, the mayor has written the Premier and the Minister his position on governance, rejecting amalgamation shared services opportunities between the lower tier municipalities and duplication of services at the regional, including, as we said, wastewater planning, road infrastructure. The mayor notes, this being you, services being shared by Pelham, such as library, legal, environmental, and exploring shared IT services at this time. My kudos to council on these initiatives. And I believe we can go further. I believe with retirement of senior positions, director positions, fire chiefs, so on and so forth, that there are opportunities in West Niagara to start looking at sharing some of these services. There is no time to delay. I do not support the mayor's suggestion that we wait for next term of council, 2027, to act. The current council term offers a unique window to implement much needed changes. Hopefully the Premier is listening and will allow Niagara to solve Niagara's problems. Given Mr. Gill's call to action in his letter to the Premier, allegedly supported by 7 mayors, including our own, representing 74% of the population, we may find that our future has already been decided. Hopefully not. Thank you for this opportunity.
Okay. Thank you, Frank. Again, just I want to reiterate that Bob Gale's letter that has the town stamp on it, I didn't sign it. I didn't make a big thing out of it like the mayor of Niagara-on-the-Lake, because I agreed with 90% of it. The only thing I didn't agree with is the weighted voting, the way it was protrude, and I knew that it was just a starting point and that it was up for discussion. So I just want to clear that up right off the bat. To the clerk.
Thank you. Our third and final pre-registered speaker is Wally Braun, and Mr. Braun is joining us through Zoom today.
Mr. Braun, you have the floor, sir. Welcome to council.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of council, and citizens. Thank you for the opportunity to speak on an essential matter. I appear before you today because local democracy in Niagara is under a quiet but coordinated attack, as well as to provide reasons to rebut provincial intent. While the province uses the language of efficiency, we must recognize that this is a calculated effort to move decision-making power away from our communities and concentrate it at levels of government that are far less accountable to the people of Niagara. The narrative of cost savings has already been established as a fictional pretext. Studies by the Association of Municipalities of Ontario, as well as my friend and mentor, Professor David Siegel, founder of the Niagara Observatory at Brock University, have already confirmed that municipal consolidation does not lower costs. In fact, history shows that amalgamation leads to increased taxes due to a bloated, distant democracy. This happens when workload is transferred from elected representatives, who account for less than 0.5% of budgets, to replacement unelected staff at much higher salaries, who do account for well over 3/4 of budgets. It's not even close. Half of 1% versus over 75%. Doug Ford's motive was confirmed yet again just yesterday, March 10th, when the ministry's own press release admitted the goal here is to help get shovels in the ground faster by modernizing permitting and cutting red tape. This is not about either conservation or about saving taxpayer dollars. Rather, this is about the centralization of power in order to facilitate development. The province is stripping our towns and townships of their right to local elected representation. The intent is clear: to reduce the number of elected representatives and thereby neuter local councils so they cannot stand in the way of provincial development priorities on our most productive farmlands. It is open to any proponent of amalgamation to show why any outcome other than tax increase is to be expected. But my own sainted grandma could still spot this racket, and she's been dead low these past 50 years. We have seen the result of this centralizing approach before. In her scathing indictment, the Auditor General found the government's land use decisions were not needed to meet housing targets, and instead benefited a small group of insiders who saw their land values increase by over $8.3 billion. Remembrance Day isn't just once a year. Remembrance Day is every day. The sacrifices made by previous generations to ensure democratic governance must be safeguarded by our local elected representatives today. The words of consultants in reports are nice, but will you fight? Do that one thing and voter turnout soars. Ordinary citizens await this council's response. Our land, our water, and our votes are not for sale. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Braun, for joining us this evening and bringing us your comments. To the clerk.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. That concludes our pre-registered speakers. You can now open it to the gallery.
Excellent. Gallery, it's now your turn to have your say, and go ahead, sir.
Just a reminder, please turn on the microphone and state your name for the record.
The microphone, if you hit that button, and if it turns green, you got it.
Mr. Mayor.
Oh, wait, sorry, could we have your name, please?
Yes, I'll give it right away.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Mr. Mayor and members of council, I appreciate the opportunity to speak with you. My name is Don Campbell. I've lived in Fonthill for more than 30 years. My comments draw on my experiences with living here and on my experiences as a municipal planner for 40 years, 30 of them in Niagara region. When I moved to Fonthill with my family, I had young children. As a young family, we would walk down Church Hill to the town center. It was brilliant. The municipal offices, the bakery, the post office, the library, the grocery store, and other shops all grouped together. I think for a lot of us as residents, that's what we are talking about: community and accessibility. For the past 2 or 3 years, I've been a member of PATH. I'm not speaking for PATH today, I should emphasize. I've been so impressed by the openness, the accessibility, the receptiveness of town councilors and town staff. This is central to my concern and where I'm coming from today. What is the problem that the regional chair wants to address? The need for infrastructure maintenance? The regional chair has characterized the situation as an emergency. To me, this is a bit much. The dictionary describes an emergency as an unforeseen combination of circumstances or the resulting state that calls for immediate action, an urgent need for assistance or relief. The chair has created a sense of urgency, a sense of crisis. The situation with our infrastructure was not unknown or unforeseen. It wasn't new. I can recall the late Con Ite, the Region's Public Works Director, talking to the Region's Public Works Committee about the infrastructure issues and the need for more infrastructure maintenance. And that would have to be 15 or 20 years ago. But councilors, and we as voters, frankly, did not want to spend the money. We just stuck our heads in the ground. Typical Canadians, we wanted the services, but we didn't want to pay for them. What did we expect? Do you expect that you can drive your car year after year without changing the oil? So here we are. That's on us as municipal officials and citizens. And now we are told the answer is amalgamation. Bigger will be better. As we've already heard from other speakers today, we have ample experience with amalgamation in Canada. The evidence elsewhere has been that amalgamation has led to higher costs, not to savings. Andrew Sancton, one of Canada's foremost experts on municipal government, has suggested that instead municipalities should look at the development of shared services, the route that Pelham has indeed followed. I recognize the value of a review and the need for improvements in municipal government. But is amalgamation the answer? I support Region's call for a careful review of our local government system, a review based on research and careful analysis of information, and a review that is transparent with substantive public engagement, not the chair's approach, which seems to be to just start breaking things, but a thoughtful, evidence-based approach. As the mayor noted, making the kind of changes that the regional chair has suggested will take a lot of work and will be very challenging. It will create a lot of disruption and probably will delay dealing with a lot of these issues that we face. You'll be having to somehow bring together multiple public works departments and getting them to work together. And there's a whole series of departments like that. And the review should not be just about money. I was looking in the last few days about one of the amalgamations that I have some knowledge of, which is the creation of Unicity in Winnipeg. And Unicity really had two goals. One was about the efficiency and effective of the organization, and the other one was about public involvement and public engagement, and how the structure facilitated that. I think we've heard a lot about money and efficiency and effectiveness, but we haven't heard that much about public engagement and public access and basically our ability to participate in government. We are, after all, supposed to be talking about democracy. I think, and it's been mentioned here today, there's one recurring theme that's been occurring in Ontario that's very concerning, and that is there seems to be a real push to amalgamation and regionalization and really restricting the public's opportunity to participate. I'm a planner, and I've really seen that in planning. The opportunity for public appeal has been restricted. The requirements for public consultation have been reduced. And of course, we've all seen the amalgamation of conservation authorities, public health councils, hospitals, and on and on. It seems like the view at the provincial level is that people just get in the way, and we want to get out of the way.
And Mr. Campbell, if you could please wrap this up, 30
Yes.
seconds. Thank you.
Okay. And, well, in conclusion, I would argue that the review should not be just about money, and we should be careful to make sure that it isn't. I'm a taxpayer, and I'm concerned about taxes as much as anyone else. But the review should look at how future proposals impact on other considerations as well, such as levels of service, quality of service, the accessibility to residents, etc. And I will be putting all of these comments and
Excellent.
Submission in writing.
Excellent. Until, how late has he got to do that?
So tomorrow at noon, the package is being sent to the province on Friday morning, but that does not preclude anyone from the public from directly reaching out to the ministry with your comments.
Thank you.
Thank you for your thoughts. Thank you. Anyone else? I'm being very lenient time-wise on individual speakers because I don't know how many of you are going to speak tonight. But to tell you the honest truth, I was expecting a bigger crowd, so I will continue to be somewhat lenient. But let's not push the envelope too far. Thank you. Go ahead, sir.
Thank you. My name is David DeRose, living here in Font Hill. We're talking about this amalgamation in terms of money and taxes and other things. But having lived through amalgamation in Ottawa, I'll tell you one thing. Services for the people who didn't live in the core got significantly worse. We reduced the number of councillors, which meant that trying to get access to our local councillors became difficult. Whereas before, we were one of maybe 3 to 5,000 constituents, we're now one of 10 to 20,000, so a lot less time for us. So trying to get something done locally became more difficult. Taxes went up and our services went down. So when we talk about amalgamation, let's work about what kind of services will come. And I'll tell you this, the St. Catharines mayor will have absolutely no interest in providing any services to the people of Pelham, and even fewer services to the people of Waynfleet. That's it. Quick and easy.
Thank you for your contribution and your thoughts. Thank you. Yeah, yes. Yeah, that averages out for Mr. Campbell. Okay, next speaker, please. Yep, go ahead. Yeah, please. And then next will be the gentleman at the back.
I did that last time. Sorry.
You're good.
No, it's on. No, it was on. There you go.
Okay. My name is Joanne Jones. I'm a member of Pelham Advocates, Trees and Habitats. I'm a member of the board. I'm also a chairperson of PASS Political Action Committee. Thank you, Mayor and councilors and members of the gallery for giving me this opportunity. I echo many of the statements that have already been made, therefore I will not repeat them. Pelham has a unique natural environment which no other community in Niagara has. This would be lost in amalgamation. Part of the towns of Pelham's 10-year official plan has the town increasing its tree canopy in urban centers from 32 to 40% coverage. This too would be lost in amalgamations. Changes to the Niagara regional governance may be indicated. If so, it needs to be done thoughtfully and with the backing of independent data. When we make big decisions in our life, such as marriage or going to college or university, we take time to decide, the time to look at the pros and the cons of our decisions. Sometimes takes months, maybe years. The decision to amalgamate, whether municipally or to political powers, will need an independent, non-biased third party to conduct the studies and present the data to Niagara Region. The 2026 taxes have been set. As such, the decisions will not affect the taxes or the 2026 regional budget. The town of Lincoln's councillor, Adam Russell, has done a comparison. That was already spoken on by Herb, so I won't go into that. Except to say that the Niagara Region budget was 25% less than that of Hamilton's. Clearly showing that fewer councillors does not save money. But it gives more councillors, however, give a greater voice to the citizens. This provides greater democracy. The municipal elections are coming up in the fall. This should give ample time to complete studies and present data. Any decisions to change the Niagara regional governance needs to be approved by the residents. Put it on the municipal ballots, give all the people the opportunity to choose, and this would be democracy at its finest. I would like to thank you for your attention.
Okay, thank you for attending tonight. Thank you. And now the gentleman in the back.
Dave Shatford, and I'm a proud Fenwick resident for 26 years. Sometimes the the question, where are you from, is huge, right? When you meet people, where are you from? And I sort of love the challenge of telling them where I'm from as we zero in on what we have in common. You know, yes, I'm from Canada, Ontario, for 26 years now. Niagara region. Oh, what part? Niagara Falls? No, I'm not from Niagara Falls. It's a semi-rural community called Pelham.
which until 1970 was other villages as well. Oh, yeah, Pelham, I've heard of that. Whereabouts in Pelham? Fawn Hill? No, nothing against Fawn Hill. Fenwick, which originally was Diffin's Corners. I love the sense of community. I love the sense of uniqueness of every part of the region. So when I see the divisions of the four cities, I have nothing against Wainfleet, Lincoln, West Lincoln, or Pelham. There's one more. What did I mean? Grimsby, okay. I love all the differences of it. I love traveling to the different parts. But I'm from Pelham, and I'm from Fenwick, and I like the uniqueness of it all, and I'm proud to be part of that. So yeah, the four cities thing. One more thing, and I know this isn't very scientific or research based. It's sort of empirical, personal data, but that's what it's about, right? The public and so on. And that is to call it West Niagara is just really boring. So, thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, wherever you are, please come up to the mic. Go ahead, sir. Yep.
Oh, it's on. Good evening, Council. My name's Kevin Greb. I've been a resident of Niagara for 53 years. I hadn't really intended to address tonight, but I'm just going to give a few of my thoughts. One of the gallery members mentioned that we've had dismal participation in municipal politics as well as dismal voter turnout. And I think a lot of that has to do with how we've been experiencing our politics. We experience politics mostly through the media, and we experience it through provincial and federal politics. And a lot of that, what we see, what we ingest is a lot of rhetoric and a lot of partisanship, a lot of like, we have this side, we have this sense of team. And what I'm seeing now, like through observing municipal politics and from watching mayors like Hazel McCallion, municipal politics kind of gives you an opportunity to step away from party lines and party policy. Because you see kids watching this and they see these broad strokes made at this higher level, and there's no individual opportunity to be heard, to communicate your point of view. So I think that's where that apathy sets in. So I think it's very important that we maintain a strong municipal government. The other issue, sorry, like I said, I hadn't intended to speak tonight.
Go ahead, take your time.
I think I like the idea that we have the opportunity to be, like, without being party affiliated, municipal councils can collaborate and they can step across lines. If they see a good initiative, they can support it openly. So that is something that I find is very vital. And I find that municipal politics allows the opportunity to be anecdotal. You can hear the voices of each member of the community and they can feel heard and not feel dismissed. And you can respond to that. You can respond to the people and the ever-changing complexion of your local community. Because it's in politics, it's a living thing. A lot of times we get caught up in this, like we hear it at every level. We hear this metric that we measure our representation by, which is fiscal responsibility, and well, we got to keep taxes down. But isn't the original intent to hear the will of the people and to make, assessments and make decisions based on that input? So yes, fiscal responsibility is important, but shouldn't the primary goal be to be responding to the voice of the public? So that's all I've got tonight. Like I said, I really didn't have anything prepared. Thank you.
Thank you. And I'll reiterate that the shouting, not the shouting, but the points made by residents, believe me, you did make the difference. And and the guys on the other side of the lake said, okay, smoke, 80% against, 90% against, and then the mayor's coming together. Believe me, the residents made themselves heard, and I think you're as big a part of this. And I truly believe that the ship has turned, and that cooler heads will prevail, and that we will maintain what we have, but at the same time, we will have to commit to studies and better, more efficient government at the regional level. But who doesn't want efficient government, right? I mean, that's what we all strive for. So anyway, thank you. Yes, go at the back. I feel like I should be saying, come on up. I don't know. Thank you for joining us tonight.
Hi, I'm Lynn Shatford, and I'm also from Fenwick, and coincidentally have lived here for 26 years too. That was my husband who spoke.
Yes.
So I just have 3 quick points that I would like to make. First of all, I don't know if anyone has, but I would really like to thank you, Mayor and Council, for saying out loud you don't think we should be amalgamated. I really appreciate that you have been clear in that, and I realize there may be a difference of opinion on sort of how to get there, but I want to thank you for everyone who is involved in having to respond to this sort of surprise situation that we found ourselves in, and I'd like to thank you for that.
Thank you.
Secondly, a few years ago, I remember going to open houses when the topic of amalgamation was brought up before, and I wasn't available to come to the one at Pelham, so I went to the one at West Lincoln, and the thought that I shared there at that time was, if you wanted to save money, maybe we didn't need the region, because at the time it was all the sort of the issues at the region and the regional councilors. Those were all the ones in the news, like this person being sued, and this person like given the questions to his friend so he could get a job, and all the mess with the CAO. Like, it was just a mess at the region, and to me it was like the towns seem like they're doing okay. Like, why do we need the region? Anyway, I don't know how that all works, but at the time that was sort of my thought. I don't know if those questions are still germane or not, but yeah, that was my second thought. The last thing that I would like to say, if you'll just permit me just a little story. I was born and raised in St. Catharines with, I have a mom and a dad and a brother and a sister. And we lived kind of near the Penn Center. And growing up, it was pretty good. We enjoyed our family. We eventually all grew up, got married, had kids, and now there are 17 of us. And we all live in different houses, and we all get along because we did not amalgamate. So I live here, my brother lives in Niagara Falls, my sister lives in Fort Erie, and Christmas is fun because we don't live all together. So I'm just thinking sort of, like, I get the idea sort of on paper, but practically speaking, I feel like Niagara's going to be a better place if we still have some boundaries. So that are my thoughts. Thank you very much for the opportunity to speak, and thanks, yeah.
And thank you for sharing your thoughts. Thank you. Any other speakers? Mr. Heska, welcome to council tonight.
Yes, I look forward to this opportunity to talk about this community, which I've lived in for 44 years and enjoyed it, raised my family, and I love the community and I love my neighborhood. And I've been, as you are well aware, following council fairly closely. And unfortunately, we haven't got the participation we should have in the community in council activities, which I think there are issues that should be more publicly information on. And as a result, and one of the issues is we don't have a Voice of Pelham anymore. And so our communication links are by media, by the internet, and some of us that are retired don't like the internet. So communication is limited, and that's unfortunate, but that's the life we live in today. This whole thing on regional amalgamation, it's not the first time it's come on the table. It's been looked at once, twice. Studies been made. The Spiegel from Brock has strong opinions on it. He's voiced them, but there's nothing been really done. And now you've got Ford in Toronto, who figures he's got an empire that he's looking after, and he wants to push everything through. And unfortunately, Bill Gale's been his pawn. He's been told by our premier to amalgamate. That's my opinion, and I think that many others think of that same thing. Because I don't think, I've talked to Bill Gale one-on-one on several occasions, and I think he's got a heart for Niagara. And he's not, even though he's a PC, ran for them, I think he has our interests in mind. So just a few comments. Right now, based on 2024 Wikipedia information, the population in Niagara is around 477,000, say 500,000 people. The 4 councils or mayors that supported this amalgamation issue, Niagara Falls, St. Catharines, Welland, and Lincoln, they represent about 312,000, which is 67% of that population. The other 8, including Pelham, represent only 35% of the population. Put it in perspective. Every one of these communities or municipalities have council, mayor, council, and senior staff. How can you justify senior staff for every one of these municipalities in 2024, based on the census on the over 100,000 salaries, the Ontario census, Pelham's town staff, 7, was over $1 million in 2024. That was it's probably 1.2. This is without benefits in that. If you go and you look at some amalgamation, you can go and reduce the number of town staff from maybe from 12 down to 4 or 1, which is, I think, unreasonable, but it can greatly be reduced and there'd be great savings in town staff. The other issue that's more pressing to me is that every one of these municipalities has bylaws, regulations, you name it. The bureaucracy of politics, in terms of all that information, you got 12 sets, plus you got a regional one, 13 sets within the region. By amalgamating, you can consolidate. And I think there's mega dollars to be saved, not thousands, mega, millions to consolidate. Sudbury, Ottawa, Hamilton, they amalgamated. Was it rational? Probably not, completely. And as a result, they paid the penalty. And I know friends in Dundas, I know friends in above the mountain, above the hill. Hey, pardon? Anyways, not Ancaster. They all had some negative responses, but they've been working through it, and so in order to do a proper amalgamation or consolidation, it needs to be thoughtfully, thoroughly, respectably, publicly studied. This non-democratic dictatorship to say we're going to change it in 2 weeks, get lost. It's nonsense, total nonsense. The only time I acted in that type of a situation in industry 40 years is if we had a safety problem. It was tomorrow. We solved it. This has been going on for, I say 20 years, conversations, and nothing has really happened. The other comment I have is the letters the 2 letters that were sent out, one from the mayor and one from the region. Excuse me. I strongly feel it's one-sided. It's the municipalities against the region. This is at Niagara that we live in. All these opinions, the 8, are saying, well, we consolidate the roads, we can do wastewater, and some of the other things. But what happens with policing, which is probably a major part of the budget? How about garbage collection? A major issue. That's not even mentioned. And so there's key, and the other one is transit. Do you realize last year, based on the latest stats, a report was put out, we're paying $1 million, taxpayers in Pelham. You know how many riders we had? Less than 6,000. You know what it costs per ride? $167. $167. I can rent a coach for that to go to St. Catharines, to the hospital, and I get service right away. Not go online and probably wait for hours. I strongly feel that this whole thing in amalgamation is not only a regional issue, it's a municipal, it's a Pelham issue. And we need to get our act together as much as the region does.
Thank you for your thoughts, Bill, and taking the time to present them tonight. Any other speakers? Once. Called it twice. 3 times. Okay, thank you to the clerk.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor. As there's no further comments from the gallery, council now has the opportunity to present their comments.
Okay, so council, we usually just go from side to side. Obviously, everyone's going to speak tonight. Do you want to start alphabetically, or do you still want to just go side to side?
Whatever.
Okay.
You're the boss.
Okay, I would like to, just so I don't get accused of favoritism, which I have had. Can we go, everybody okay if we go alphabetically? Sure. Okay, thank you. And that would be, Madam Clerk?
Councillor Bernarski, you would kick it off.
Oh, the new guy, the new guy on the block. Councillor, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you. Pelham is a community that many of us chose intentionally. My wife and I were both born and raised in outside of the region in rural southwestern Ontario in the small town of Listowel. When it came time for us to choose where to build our life and raise our family, Pelham felt like home. We are now raising our daughters here, and that makes the future of this community deeply personal to me. People moved to Pelham for the small town feel, the sense of connection, and the ability to have a real voice in the decisions that shape our community, which was certainly the case for us. I can personally say that one of the things I value most about serving on this council is how accessible local government is here. Residents have the opportunity to call us, they can stop us in the grocery store, or speak to us at community events, and their concerns really do help shape the decisions that we make. And that local voice matters. Decisions about Pelham should be made by the people who understand Pelham, our neighborhoods, our rural areas, our businesses, and the priorities of our residents. And one of the things that makes Pelham special is that residents have a real voice in the decisions that affect their community. And at the same time, I believe we should approach this conversation thoughtfully and responsibly. The province has raised some legitimate questions about governance and service delivery in Niagara, and we shouldn't ignore those concerns. There are opportunities to improve how services are delivered, to reduce duplication, and at the end of the day, ensure taxpayers are getting value for their money. But I don't believe those improvements require forced amalgamation. Pelham is a strong and viable municipality with responsible finances, continued growth, and at the heart of it, a community that cares deeply about where they live. My position is that we can be open to meaningful governance reform and improving service delivery across Niagara, We should also stand firm in protecting Pelham's identity and ensuring that decisions about our community remain as close to our residents as possible. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Madam Clerk?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The next speaker would be Deputy Mayor Eckert.
Deputy Mayor Eckert, you have the floor, sir.
Thank you. First of all, I want to thank all the residents that showed up here tonight to show their interest. That's enthusiastic. It's rewarding to us to know that people are interested in this topic, and especially to the 10 speakers who spoke tonight. I can tell you that I took something from every one of you, especially Lynn, and I'm going to cancel Easter dinner with my family. So we'll keep peace in the family. But thanks for coming out. There's a couple of things. First of all, I am not in favor of amalgamation. I'll say that right out front. I believe that Pelham, Fenwick, Effingham, Fonthill, Ridgeville, and North Pelham. There you go. We will all lose our identity, and not only that, but we will, I know that some of you may groan when I say this, but you will lose the fine level of service that we get here in this community. I have listened to my friends from Welland and St. Catharines and Niagara Falls for years complain about the services that they get, and I every year phone them and tell them, oh, the darn plow's going down my street again. When they haven't seen one in 3 days. And I can tell you, my daughter and son-in-law live in the north end of St. Catharines, and they don't see a plow. It just gets packed down. That's how they get out of their side street, okay? So that's a danger that we may lose. If you look at downsizing councils or regional council or whatever, you also have to take into consideration that Toronto, Hamilton, Mississauga, all of those larger centers, they all have staff. I don't have a staff. I have my wife who answers the phone when I'm not there. And I don't pay her very well, I can tell you that. So there's a lot of hidden costs. My big question to the Premier of Ontario, the Minister Flack, to Chair Gale, to the 4 mayors who wanted to go to 4 cities, how? My question is how? You all talk about cost savings, lower taxes, or whatever. How? No one is saying that. They're just saying it's going to happen. And history shows us that that does not happen. We've had speaker after speaker tonight talk about Ottawa or Hamilton. Those taxes went up. In Ottawa, services went down. So no one has yet come out of those people that I've mentioned to say, this is how we're going to reduce taxes. We have a huge infrastructure deficit that needs to be addressed. And the only way that that can be addressed is if the province writes us a check for $1 billion or we raise taxes. And downsizing or amalgamating is not going to eliminate that infrastructure deficit, not 1 cent. Okay? The only other comment that I wanted to make was 2 things about this whole issue. I think that Chair Gale's, I've known Chair Gale, we were both cadets on the police department in 1974. So I've known him for that long. And I've known him in all his various public adventures that he's got into, whether it's the Parks Commission or wherever it was. And I can't help but believe that Chair Gale's sole purpose on this was to not light a fire, but explode a bomb and get everybody talking about it and getting some movement. Because I know we had one speaker several speakers tonight that have talked about nothing going on here, and it's not 20 years, it's 40 years, at least 40 years. So I'm wondering if that was his goal, if that was his instructions, not sure, to get us talking about it, and it certainly has got us talking about it. I did want to mention, we had a meeting here, I think at the end of January, and Chair Gale came to introduce himself to the Pelham Town Council, and I asked him a very straightforward question, as I'm sure he knew I would, and that was, what can you tell us about all this talk about amalgamation? And his answer to us at the end of January was, I know as much as you know, I know nothing about it. You can make your own mind up about that answer. The second part I wanted to bring up was when the 8 mayors that were on the board got together and sent a response in to the minister. The mayor of St. Catharines, Mayor Cisco, Mayor Diodati, and Mayor Campion never commented on that at all. I took a little exception to Mayor Easton's response to that, and it was in the 3rd paragraph of her letter. And she criticized the 8 municipalities for not including the 4 municipalities in conversations and consultations. So I sent Mayor Easton a letter on Sunday afternoon, and I have yet to get a response from it. And I asked her one simple question. When and how many times did you, Mayor Diodati, Mayor Cisco, and Mayor Campion meet to discuss amalgamation and carving up the region without inviting any of us? And I've yet to get a response. So anyway, I think it was done, it's not done in a very thoughtful manner, talking about amalgamation. I think there's a lot of efficiencies that can happen. We look for efficiencies all the time here at Town Council in Pelham. Our projects seem to come in on time and under or at budget, unlike a lot of the projects at the region. So I think there's a lot of efficiencies that can be found at the region, whether that's through reduction of councilors or reduction of staff or whatever it is. But it needs to be, as Mr. Heska said, thoughtfully, respectfully, publicly looked at, and it can't be done in a couple of weeks or a month. So those are my comments, and thank you very much.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Appreciate your time and your words. To the clerk.
Thank you. That'll bring us to Councillor Hildebrand.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's hard to follow that act a little bit. I'm not sure. Well, I'm going to tell you how long I've lived here, just in case you think I'm only 36 or something like that. We moved here in 1973, got 3 kids, they're all married. They left the Fond Hill home and all went to Fenwick, mainly because they thought they'd get better service from councilors in Ward 1 than Ward 3. So I know they're in good hands with those councilors. Tonight is about Pelham's future and the future of regional government in Niagara. I want to thank each one of you for participating because your comments matter. They matter to us because we care, because I really believe Pelham is a community that cares. Residents have spoken and have delivered a very clear message to me. They do not want Pelham's identity and independence to disappear into a larger municipality. I wholeheartedly agree. People moved to Pelham because it was a community, not just a line on a map, because I truly believe Pelham cares. They value responsible local government, accessible council members, and services that reflect the character of Fond Hill, Fenwick, Ridgeville, North Pelham, and the other rural areas. When municipalities are forced together, the promise is usually efficiency and less cost. But across Ontario, we have learned that bigger government does not always mean less cost. Often it simply means decisions move away from the people they affect. Pelham is a municipality that does not resist change or progress. It's about protecting local accountability. At the same time, independence should never mean standing still. There are many areas where I believe municipalities can cooperate and share services and adopt new technologies and improve efficiencies and reduce costs. In fact, Pelham has already made many of those moves, as has been noted. We share services with Wainfleet, Town of Lincoln, and several areas. These partnerships allow municipalities to work together where it makes sense while keeping decisions close to the communities they serve. The mayor has mentioned and outlined very clearly and identifying cooperative measures that we as a municipality that he has proposed, and I agree with him, as a starting point. We have to start somewhere to come up with some suggestions, because if you don't take a stand for something, you lose total control in my mind. On a broader scale, I want to talk about some of the cooperative measures that Pelham has taken in the past that I want to make sure the residents are aware of. Pelham participates in cooperative programs through the Association of Municipalities of Ontario and local authority services called CANOE. Through these programs, 90% of municipalities, including all upper-tier municipalities, participate. The difference it makes, by pooling municipal purchasing power, municipalities gain access to economies of scale, from office supplies to large equipment like public works trucks. If you didn't know this, Pelham has bought the last 3 units, 2 single-axle large trucks and 1 tandem-axle truck, as a turnkey pre-built unit through the program at a significant saving in staff time, price, and delivery schedule. Those trucks could have had a decal from 90% of the other municipalities across Ontario. They're no different than their trucks. Huge savings all around. Pelham is also a shareholder in Niagara Peninsula Energy, along with Niagara Falls, Lincoln, and West Lincoln. Niagara Peninsula Energy serves 1,390 of our customers in Pelham. Niagara Peninsula Energy serves approximately 60,000 customers and is the largest electricity distributor in the province, in Niagara. Through participation in Grid Smart City Cooperative, it cooperates with utilities serving approximately 750,000 residents across Ontario. Through this cooperative model, utilities share expertise, coordinate purchasing, and gain operational efficiencies, effectively becoming the 4th largest electricity distribution network in the province. As you probably know, the largest electricity distributor in Ontario is Hydro One. Despite its size, Hydro One customers in Pelham have higher distribution costs and significantly more outage complaints than those served by Niagara Peninsula Energy. So much for the idea that bigger automatically means better service and cost less. Fewer municipalities serving a larger population does not automatically deliver better results. The lesson is simple, in my mind. What works is smart cooperation. Municipalities working together where it makes sense, while maintaining local accountability residents expect. For Pelham, retaining our municipality with local accountability and responsibility while continuing to adopt cooperative service models will allow us to achieve efficiencies while protecting the voice of our community and our residents. In the end, the best government is a government that stays close to its people it serves. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Hildebrand. And in case you didn't know, Bob is our hydro guy. To the clerk.
Thank you. That brings us to Councilor Kerr.
Councilor Kerr, you have the floor.
That's a tough act to follow, for sure. He knows more about electricity than I'll ever in my entire life. That's for sure. I guess to kind of date myself, and maybe there's got to be somebody in this room, other than the mayor, who I know is older than I am, who has lived in this municipality longer than I have. I have lived here for 68 years.
68. Oh, you got me.
I was born in the Welland Hospital when it was on River Road.
Really?
Before the Welland Hospital had been built. So that just kind of sets the tone. Knowing a little bit of history, my father was a big one, World War II pilot. He talked about if you don't read history, you may be doomed to repeat the same mistakes over and over and over again. The region came into being in 1970. It was a shotgun marriage, or I call it a polygamous marriage per se, that they created the entity. Prior to that, there was Welland County and Lincoln County. So to know the background of it, in fact, even in the town of Pelham, we went through a great debate as to what the town's name would be. For anyone who was around here at that time, there was a big debate. Should we be known as Pelham or should we be known as Fonthill? Well, interestingly, the rural area decided to get together and the vote came in for Pelham. The interesting part was the first mayor of the town of Pelham was the former reeve of Fonthill, Harold Black. So this is why, I guess where I'm going is sometimes you need to take a look at things over and over again to understand where they're going. We've had a regional government for 55 years with what I will classify as not a lot of changes per se. We have had a few things come into play. In 1970, they did not have a district school board for all of Niagara. They kept it as 2 school boards. There were a whole bunch of things that happened at that time. So a governance review is a good idea. We've just gotten mired down in the past of somebody's had to put your feet to the fire in order to do it. And this is really where we are at this point. There was been a tremendous downloading from the province to all the municipalities, locally and regionally. The province has handed over a lot of things. This has also happened in the amalgamated cities. If you talk to the city of Hamilton, I know councillors there. I've talked to people in Waterloo. I know councillors there. Things were handed down. And the province did a convenient job of handing it, but never handing enough money to take over the services that they were given. Larger did not help. When you looked at the dollars per resident for elected politicians, it's phenomenal, the cost per politician. It really is. So I've taken a look at it. Fewer does not always mean better. Fewer means more layers that people have to go through. For those of you who like to call myself or the mayor or, as Bryce says, stop them on the street, fewer of us means less contact with the average person. An interesting point was brought up about the number of reducing council size. Well, in my dissertation and my graduate work, the optimum size is 7. 5 was not enough. More than 7 was not. And this is backed by published data over and over and over and over again. So I'm a proponent of 7. It just happens to be what we have. The suggestion that was made, we looked at it, but then it comes back to critical mass. The township of Wainfleet, with far fewer residents, has 5. I will admit that. But there is no other municipality close to our size that has 7. They all have more. If you look at Port Colborne, if you look at Lincoln, if you start to look at West Lincoln, they're either equal or more. So I'm not a proponent to slash even further back. That being said, I had come up with a suggestion, and I had given it at the time to Minister Calandra, who was at the time when I got in there, and I sat in a room and talked about how to reduce the number of politicians quite easily. And it was talking about the whole issue of having unbalanced representation at the regional level, whereby the major cities would control. The weighted voting, as the mayor has admitted, is not something I'm a proponent for, but there is a mechanism to come up with a balance, and I'm not sure what the mayor sent along, but I came up with one where St. Catharines, Welland, and Niagara Falls would have half, and the remaining communities would have half. And the reason being is, what are the likelihood of getting everybody together in a room to always agree and come up with enough votes to get what you want through? You always put them in a, quote, minority position that they need to go out and generate some degree of agreement with other people. Just my own ideas. I actually was employed by the region as a summer student, and I painted lines on roads, and I walked up and down every regional road. Over my 3-year period, I walked the full length of every regional road in Niagara at the time, and this is in the 70s. Yes, I walked Victoria Avenue all the way from Vineland, all the way to Chambers Corners. I walked Regional Road 1 in Fort Erie all the way. Interesting thing that has happened, there's far fewer regional roads now than there ever have been. So the concept of going down the roads route is probably making more sense than anything else that I've heard, because it started small, got really big, and now is shrinking. So the opportunity is there to move forward. And technology and everything else of tracing equipment and moving it around. I learned a big thing about our town, of them having basically GPS on every snowplow in the town. They know where it is, they know when it is, and they know the speed it travels. I found that incredible, because we've had some people comment, oh, I didn't see. No, we could talk to them. They could tell us where they were at that time and what their speed was. I find that absolutely incredible. So we have the opportunity to be much more efficient. The deficit, as was brought up by Councillor Eckert, is at the bigger level, and that's something that has to be seriously looked at. I don't have an obvious answer for that one. We have one taxpayer in this room that's funding this town, it's funding the region, and is also paying taxes to the provincial government as well, who turns around and hands it back and says, here, aren't we so nice that we've handed you money? It was my money to begin with. It's a classic line. It almost sounds like the consultant that you ask what time it is, and then he borrows your watch. So we have an opportunity, but municipalities are service organizations. If you look at straight dollar and cents, many things you can't run at a break even all the time. It has to be subsidized somehow for the greater social good of everyone. We have the Meridian Center, we have public parks, we have a whole bunch of things, and a large number of people contribute to it, but those of us who have, and I will openly say it, those of us who have more ensure that those who do not have as much or the capacity or on social services have access to social services in our town. It's critical. If you look at the regional municipality of Halifax, again, I've done work down there, they're not real happy about their amalgamation. All the outlying areas, very much like Ottawa, have been swallowed. They reduced their councillors, and their services are going down, and they're going broke. They're losing money every year. All you had to do was even look at the news and see even the province of Nova Scotia has suddenly got a massive deficit that the premier is trying to walk his way through. Bigger is not always better. Getting along with your neighbors, that's an important part. Kind of like family. You want to be close, but not too close. And that's an important point, because it allows you to develop your own concepts and ideas. I guess where I'll finish at the end is to say, the one thing hopefully we won't get caught into, and which has happened in the past, is what I call paralysis by analysis. Sometimes we get into the weeds without really taking a look and understanding what was the solution. My father's favorite saying was, it's hard to remember that your original intention was to drain the swamp when you're up to your butt in alligators. Very true. What is the true problem? What is the objective, and how do we best achieve it? I do have concerns that the people deciding how to take apart the system and remove jobs which could be their own sometimes are not the most objective. So there's that danger factor that exists. And putting the responsibility onto people recognizing the massive increase in the workload. Are they aware of it, and are they prepared for it? There are some who have lots of assistance and other things, but the smaller communities don't have that particular situation, and that's a fear that I have, of being informed, willing, and able. So with that, I think that others have hit the topics. I'm not for amalgamation. I am not for, I look at the region, and having worked inside that system, seeing that there's opportunities for municipal sharing and operation of. I have a classic one is the province downloaded all of municipal planning and everything to the municipalities. Previously, the region was the one that had to overlook everything. That doesn't exist anymore. Every time the province hands things down, the municipalities look at it for their best interest for their municipality. I don't know the wants and needs of the people that are in Winger. I don't know the needs of the people in Osterheim Corners and Wainfleet. Having fewer people, are you going to know more about more places? You probably won't. I've been lucky. I know this town inside out, frontwards, backwards, and that's what I try and bring to the table is the knowledge from that side. I can look at the past, but I need to be looking at the future at the same time. You can't stay stagnant, and that's where we are. That's where we have been, I would say, for a number of years in this paralysis by analysis. My last point would be I really would like to read the Ceiling Fin report from 2019.
Yeah.
How you could spend all that money and then have it stuck away. They must know something in it, and they've kept it from us. So there is probably, there's a telltale story stuck in there, and it's a classic line. If you don't want people to know what you didn't like to hear, don't let them know that you've got it, or don't make it available. So I will leave it at that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Kerr. Turn to the clerk.
Thank you. That brings us to Councillor Niznik.
Councillor Neslick, you have the floor.
Great, thank you. Good evening, everyone, and again, thank you for your input and coming out tonight. It is a bit smaller crowd than I was hoping would show up as well, but I thank you for your due diligence and your sincere interest in this topic. So I'm just going to give a little bit of personal information. So during the past 4 years, this is my first term on council, as you may probably know. I was acclaimed, so proudly acclaimed, but I was certainly willing to put up a fight and earn this job as needed, but I didn't have to do that. Maybe we will in November, and I'll look forward to that. So if you're interested, call me and we can talk about what the role looks like. But I have certainly grown a lot in the past 4 years. It's been a tall learning curve, and I've certainly grown to have a new appreciation for our town staff and the government and our government that performs for the residents. So staff work really hard on behalf of residents. They're willing to meet with residents, talk problems out, and I don't think that would happen in a bigger amalgamated city. We've certainly achieved lots of kudos from other levels of government involving our celebrations, our festivals, our library achievements, our financial I put acquittals, but that's not reporting, thank you, and our performance financially. So we're doing a good job. We're working hard and we're doing a good job. And I think that's all really residents want from us. And that might be the reason why the turnout is so low, is because you have faith in us and you believe that we're doing a good job working hard, and our staff as well. We've gotten a lot done in the past 4 years. Guided by the strategic plan, we've begun a renovation on the library. We have plans to begin work on a brand new fire hall replacement, a pool retrofit. Those are 3 major, big, expensive projects that we've been able to organize. We're adding lights to some of our fields, solar panels on the roof of the MCC. We've installed public art in 3 locations throughout the town, and with more planned for this spring. Our committees, and those are people who volunteer their time to sit on these committees to make our town a really vibrant and better place. We've made some significant and positive changes as well with input to council, including the public art, as mentioned, that came from our PCAC group, reducing speeds within the town, ensuring our lights are now all LED. We're looking to support a home for dementia residents who live in Pelham, being able to build one for a small home for dementia families, people to be able to age in place. And we're in a financially much more positive position than we were 4 years ago. So it's amazing. And that's why I feel personally like we were bamboozled by the regional chair direction to amalgamate with others. With the expression of his concern over mismanagement, high tax costs, and an overabundance of politicians. I forwarded my concerns the minute he came out with these statements regarding the need to reorganize our fully functioning town into a suburb of other areas within the region. As a suburb, we would probably have no autonomy on our new fields that we're hoping to implement, on the arena use that's done. Our town staff and community groups make those decisions. Would that still be in existence if we're in a larger city? Decisions on our new pools, our new libraries, our new parks, nor maintain the little control we now even have over development and growth. That was one of my main reasons for coming on council, was to help support development and growth in a thoughtful manner. So there were many questions that as soon as I observed Chair Gale presenting at the Fort Erie Council meeting. If you haven't had a chance to do that, I highly encourage you to watch that on YouTube. It's available. It was, I think, February 20-something, where Chair Gale presented his ideas to the town there with some really great questions from their council. And he had very few answers. He also spoke at Niagara-on-the-Lake. I haven't watched that entire one. I attended the February 26th meeting at Regional Council to hear what councillors and mayors felt was happening, and that was evident there that there was a big resistance rising up from members of council. So my question, Brian's, Eckert's was how, mine's why. Why would this come about all of a sudden? Where has this come from? Our towns are functioning well. Our towns are not in financial ruin. The region has some financial concerns, but as has been mentioned, those are police budgets, which we have very little control over. We have some infrastructure that wasn't properly addressed over the past 25 years. Those are not issues that even the regional councillors have total control over or responsibility and could have done differently. Maybe they could have raised taxes back a few years ago, and maybe they should have in order to address the infrastructure. But I'm not sure, and so the why has this kind of stayed stagnant, as Councillor Kerr said, for the last 40 years or 25 years? Why has it popped up and then gone away? Popped up, gone away. Is it because really there is no why to answer? There's no real big problem. There's no overgovernance. There's no cost saving available. There's no purpose for changing anything we have right now. Can we review some processes and some things and maybe become more functional and that sort of thing? Always, as Kevin said, we want to move forward. We want to keep changing, and you can't stay stagnant. You can't always stay the same. Might that look like a smaller government, both at the local level? Might it look like a smaller staff at the local level and at the regional levels? Possibly. But so many questions still are around, and we need to answer the questions thoughtfully, using data in a just a sec, planned, systemic, reasoned manner, not just pull it out of the sky and then say, oh, well, let's try this. Maybe these suggestions will work. Let's try this suggestions. And I understand why I think our mayors all got together and said, let's go with this view. And it was to avoid certainly amalgamation, because I think they had little choice in the manner at the time. They wanted to offer something different because so that they weren't forced down the road of four city amalgamations. Or maybe we would be one big Niagara, who knows? I don't know. But the government certainly, I believe, at the provincial level had a plan without any intent to involve us. And that backfired on them big time. So I'm proud of you, and I'm proud of our councillors, I'm proud of our mayors, who all stood up and said, whoa, let's hold the horses here. We need to have a voice on this. This is our town, our decisions, our tax dollars, our services. We will address it. Give us a chance. Let us have a look at it. Let us figure out what it costs. Let us figure out what the savings can be, and we will get there. But we cannot do that in 2 weeks. We cannot do that in 2 months. That will take, at least the next term of council. So I feel we should hold the horses and stay the course of what's already in place, looking at ways to reduce, revise as needed. And I have, as I said, I had so many questions. I forwarded them to Mr. Oosterhoff, forwarded them to Chair Gale, forwarded them to our CAO, and those were my thoughts. As you can see, I was pretty steamed. And I won't stop. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Lisnick. Last but not least, Councillor Wink.
I'm always last.
You have the floor.
I know. So I'll go on record to state I oppose amalgamation. I'm not sure if any of my points are going to be new or different than what's already been said tonight, but I'll just go through it quickly. I find it very disconcerting that decisions are being made directly prior to municipal elections. Any changes to governance requires public input and thoughtful discussion. The Premier recently stated that a solution to reduce the number of elected officials has to be from Niagara by Niagara, not by the regional chair or by the Premier. So why do I oppose amalgamation? I challenge anyone in this room to outline one community in the province of Ontario where there's been an amalgamation that has provided cost efficiencies and tax relief. It doesn't exist. The Premier mandated amalgamation to the Peel region, and within 2 years, that amalgamation was scrapped. When Hamilton region amalgamated, newer assets such as a Zamboni and ladder truck paid for by residents of Flamborough and Carlisle were reallocated to Hamilton and replaced by older equipment from Hamilton. For all the good work that we've done and all the new equipment that we've bought, do we want to see our new fire trucks and our snowplows go to another community and we get someone else's garbage? I don't think so. Pelham has worked very hard over the past 2 terms of council, and I can say that with the mayor and my fellow councillor Bob here. We've reduced our debt significantly. We've built up our reserves. We replaced outdated equipment. We've improved our parks and facilities. We've improved our infrastructure, such as roads and underground pipes. I challenge you to go to our neighbors and see what conditions their roads are in. We've got a plan, a 10-year capital plan, looking at additional road repair, water, wastewater capacity and whatever. If we amalgamate, we're going to lose all that traction that we've had. Where will we be if we amalgamated? The thing that makes Pelham great is community. We know the people on our streets. We get together for our cultural events to bring our communities together. Would we still have our parades, our festivals, our concert series? Would volunteerism be diminished? No more advisory committees that provide recommendations to council. Will PATH be able to influence a larger community to protect our valuable resources? We work well with our residents and our committees and the like, and I'm in favor of keeping that together. It's been mentioned several times about shared services that we have with other municipalities, so I won't go over that. I believe most Niagara residents agree that there are too many elected officials in Niagara. 126. The proposal to reduce the regional council to a chair and 12 mayors has some merit. I agree with the reductions of councilors in municipalities as proposed by Regional Chair Gale. Pelham completed a review of council structure as indicated by CAO Cribbs. We went through a detailed process to figure out what was the best format of a council for this community, and we've decided to stay the status quo, change a few boundaries, but keep the 3 wards, 2 councilors per ward. I'll tell you, if you have 1 councilor per ward, with the number of questions and concerns of residents, 1 councilor can't handle it all on a consistent basis. I do not agree with weighted voting of mayors as proposed, because 3 municipalities could control all regional decisions going forward. A more viable solution needs to be considered, and I don't have that solution at this point in time, but I assume that the regional chair would have only 1 vote in the event of a tie. The regional chair must be voted by the residents and not appointed by the premier. This flies in the face of a democratic process. Remember, the premier stated that the solution has to be made by Niagara for Niagara. My final point is there needs to be a comprehensive review and restructuring of the region and how services are to be delivered. The region created hierarchies while not addressing the failure of our infrastructures. The $650 million cost to upgrade our water wastewater plants will not be solved by amalgamation. This is the result of past councils not allowing for critical infrastructure improvements. Viable alternatives and solutions to regional services must be explored. And again, I'm not in favor of amalgamation. Let us continue to make our municipality stronger and stronger in the upcoming years. I think we're on the right track, and I thank everyone for all their input today and for coming out here. Again, as Councillor Niznik mentioned, I wish there would have been a lot more people and here and expressing their concerns, but by the sounds of it, for those who are here, for the most part, we're all on the same page. So thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Wink. If I'll just summarize, as you heard, this is this council, myself, we are against amalgamation. We feel that there's lots of room. We're not against governance review. Councillor Kerr said it's been 50 some odd years. And yes, there must, I can assure you that there are savings to be had. Going forward, I said at one point during my talk that yes, I think we're over the hump, but at the same time, we must remain diligent until we have a concrete statement from Rob Flack. Anything is on the table, in spite of what we hear. It's when we get a statement from Mr. Flack giving us direction, that's when we know that good, that's behind us. Let's focus on what's ahead of us. I can assure this you and the rest of the residents in Pelham that myself and your council will keep you informed. And when we do have a plan forward, we will not hesitate to have another public meeting, hopefully maybe perhaps at the MCC or at least through the press, so that everyone will be aware of where we're going and why we're going. Like I said, no one likes to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars on consultants, but no one wants to make a plan that doesn't work. So it has to be looked at by professionals and then debated by the residents. If professionals give us a road to go down, is that the road the residents want to go? Is that the way the politicians want to go? But there's got to be a process, and I can assure you that part of the process involves you, and my promise to you is that you will be involved. So let's see whether the car will continue to kick the can down the road, and we'll see where it ends up at. To the clerk.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. To conclude, I have a motion presented by Councillor Wink, seconded by Councillor Niznik. Be resolved that Council receive the verbal presentations made by members of the public at the special meeting of Council held on March 11th, 2026, and that the clerk be directed to forward a recording of the verbal comments together with copies of all written submissions received by the town of Pelham through various communication channels, including social media, the governance review at pelham.ca email address, written correspondence, and the survey that was distributed by the town to the Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing and MPP Sam Oosterhoff for their consideration. To you, Mr. Mayor, for a vote.
Thank you. I'll call the vote. All those in favor? Seen none opposed, motion carries. To the clerk.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And that brings us to the confirming bylaw. And I have a motion put forward by Councillor Bernarski, seconded by Councillor Kerr. Be resolved that the following be ready for second, third time and passed, being bylaw number 16, 2026, to adopt, ratify, and confirm the proceedings of Council of the Town of Pelham at its special meeting held on the 11th day of March, 2026. To you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. I'll call the vote. All those in favor? Seen none opposed, motion carries.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. That brings us to adjournment, and I have a motion put forward by Councillor Kerr, seconded by Councillor Hildebrand. Be it resolved that this special meeting of Council be adjourned until the next regular meeting scheduled for March 25th, 2026 at 9 a.m. To you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Call the vote. All those in favor? Seen none opposed, this meeting is adjourned. And again,